You don't read? You teach? Don't you assign reading to kids? That's the irony.
But look at the names: Brene Brown, Adam Grant.
She also wrote a book called Quiet, which is about introverts and why Western culture gives them a bad rap.
Oh, I think I gave that to my wife because my wife identifies as a. Are we recording right now?
Yeah, we're on. But, I might not use it, so don't worry.
My wife identifies as a bit of an introvert, so.
Yeah, Haley made me read the book because she was like, you need to understand my people of introverts.
Yeah.
It was a good book.
Quiet.
Yep. Basically, it was like, and it made a fair point that Western culture, introvert has a stigma to it. Like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Which, as opposed to just another thing.
Yeah, right.
Which is very true. I wonder where we get that, right? Because in other cultures, like I'd imagine, and maybe this is borderline stereotypical of me to say, but it's like in like Japan, I would imagine introverts, like it seems like a more introverted culture, like way less loud and say the first thing.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're going to lose our sponsorship from Japan on that comment.
Yeah, mine is gone now.
Hello, Dr. Steve. How are you doing? Thanks for coming back.
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's always good to have you here in the therapy studio. We talked about a lot of stuff last session.
Yeah, kind of all over the place. We wondered whether my daughter would approve or not.
I say we just, obviously not forget her because she's your daughter, but also like, if she likes it, she'll listen. If she doesn't, that's okay.
Can't be in our heads.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
There was an update that I failed to share with you. Just we didn't touch on it or ran out of time or whatever. But so in terms of like my journey with dissociation and whatnot, I looked into. I talked about there's this like treatment of psilocybin, which is basically like mushrooms. Can't do it. It's not legal.
We talked about shroom therapy before.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The other mode is they use ketamine, which is MDMA, I guess. No, it's different than MDMA. It's just ketamine. And I called a place. I wasn't entirely sold on it. It seemed like a little loosey-goosey. Mm-hmm. Basically, they just were like, yeah, you meet with a therapist a few times. Then for treatment, we give you a dosage, we give you an eye shade, you sit in a room. It's like that to me sounds like just getting high in a room. I'm going to be honest with you. So after talking with George, I'm going to look into EMDR.
Okay.
Which, obviously I was reluctant to at first, which was kind of interesting. And George picked up on that. He was like, what's the hesitation? Mm-hmm. And a part of me was like, this seems like dumb and it's not going to work, which not to sound judgmental, but I am a little skeptical. I know nothing about it, which is kind of ironic that I'd be skeptical, but I'm going down that path of trying to find someone who will do it.
EMDR podcast?
No, that will be not podcasted, but if I ever do it, assuming I do it, I'll definitely
You'll talk about it.
But so there's an update there, and it's not a huge update, but I'm going down that.
So I haven't known, my experience and my knowledge of EMDR is that it's very focused on trauma-related treatment.
Yeah. Yes. And George said that.
So like, I think if I was an EMDR therapist, I would be like, okay, so is there an identifiable traumatic event that we're trying to help you reprocess?
And there is one. It's just 25 years ago.
That's okay. If it's, that approach, my understanding, that approach is for any time that you've got invasive thoughts related and traumatic memories that are showing up today when they've been way in the past.
And I guess that's why I'm skeptical, because it's like, the memory I hold is the last memory I have, like the night before I woke up and I felt foggy and hazy for the rest of my life. Right. And I had one big panic attack.
Yeah. That's the event.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't feel, it doesn't make me uncomfortable to to talk about it, right? I haven't like blocked it off or anything. So it's like,
well, but as you know, I mean, you don't know whether you blocked it off.
Yeah, that's
if you,
yeah.
If
yeah.
you've blocked it off, like there's a book out there called "The Body Keeps the Score" about the way our minds and our brains process and hold on to and reaccess traumatic events, and so some things are blocked off. And like when I was growing up in psychotherapy as a grad student and stuff, I mean, one of the big things that people talked about was repressed memory syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are these repressed memories, or you have these traumatic experiences and then you repress the memories? And are these therapists, hypnotherapists and others, are they conjuring up these memories? Are they placing memories inside you? And I think we know so much more now than we did in the 1990s when I was getting trained as a mental health professional about how the body keeps the score. And so that's an amazing book. Gerber Mate, I think, is the person who wrote that.
So the idea is that like
or Besser Van de Kolk, one of those two, but they're some of the foremost trauma experts in the
the
world.
body holds on to stuff that the mind isn't even aware of.
Yeah.
Which I'm 100% down for that. Like,
because the mind is protecting, the brain is protecting us. Like we had such a horrible experience going through that. Why would I want to go through that again? So, and then what happens is you see something that reminds you of it. So my neighbor, I think we may have talked about this, my neighbor who lived behind me when we lived in Texas, who when Saving Private Ryan came out, he said, I don't need to see that again. I lived through that. And the assault on Normandy, he's like, I don't need that. And so when Saving Private Ryan came out and all these people were saying, I wasn't prepared for reliving those powerful experiences that I had through what we saw in that Steven Spielberg movie.
It opened
it was a trigger. Yeah,
opened the
floodgates,
so to speak.
And I think about people's trauma memories, and this is probably very naive and simplistic for me to think about it this way, but I think when we do start accessing these memories that were repressed or hidden from us, I think it's a way of our brain saying, you're in a different place now. You're ready to have access to these right now. And I think EMDR unlocks some of that. So
I would be 100% down for that. Like, right? I'm not afraid of unlocking something.
Right.
In a weird way, I'm like trying to unlock something.
Yeah, bring it on. That's the Alex thing, is bring it on.
Because it's like better than doing nothing. And if it is really, if it's hard, so be it. The hard part has been not knowing. I think the uncertainty, handling that uncertainty and ambiguousness has been... Ambiguity has been just as challenging as anything else there is out there for me. So it's like...
But I think that may be more of an Alex thing than what other people experience, because I think some people are like, I don't want to ever go back to that place, that accident, that experience, that time when... some people don't want to go back there. And so
I worry that...
And you're going to tell me that I have to go sit in somebody's office and relive that crap? No way. I'm not going.
A part of me feels like maybe, and there's something I'm embarrassed about, is that like my trauma isn't real trauma then. It's like what I want to deal with isn't serious enough right? Because I don't have those kinds of hesitations. It's like, I don't want to relive it again.
Yeah.
Right? Well, does that mean it's because it wasn't that bad? Like all I can think of is people being like, Alex, you shouldn't be putting yourself in the category of people who like had real trauma, right? Like sexual trauma or physical trauma and
life-threatening.
Yeah. And like,
But the thing I learn over and over again in this world is that everyone's pain is unique and everyone's trauma is unique, and that multiple people can have the same experience, can be at the same place, and some experience it as traumatic and some don't, and another event is flip-flopped, vice versa,
I hear you say that, and I agree with you, but a part of me is like, the vast majority of people are just going to judge me. It's like they aren't going to be... Even I judge myself. It's like, yeah, but
because
running over an IED is way more traumatic than having a panic attack when you're 12 or whatever it is.
Yeah. They both can be traumatic experiences, and I think it's a losing battle to put them on the same continuum.
Yes, yeah. I don't do it that often, but I think I just carry. I'm a bit embarrassed, or like the reason I carry a little bit of shame of like, am I making this too big of a deal, right? But it's tough for me because, and this ties back to what I talked about last session of like some of the sadness I carried in some of the instant like moments I experienced. A big thing I always ran in my head was, I can't tell anyone about this because they're going to think I'm being a sissy, or like this isn't a big deal, or I'm faking it, or I'm just trying to get attention, or
I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But flat out, they won't get it at all, and they'll look at me like I'm a crazy guy.
Yeah. So there's always a little bit of that in terms of like, I don't want to share and seem like I'm looking for attention. I think that's a huge stigma of mental health. Now I think about it, is like, at least for me, I don't know if everyone listening can agree, but like, there's always this fear of someone being like, well, they're just saying, they just want attention. They just want to be told nice things. They want to be comforted. And that's a real barrier. Like,
do you think that's a universal? Do you think most people have that, or do you think
I don't
that's
know.
more of an Alex thing?
I mean, I'm 100% willing to throw it out there. It could just be an Alex thing. But my gut also is like, I've seen stuff on social media where it hints at like, this is a concern for a lot of people, is this feeling of being judged by their peers for being soft or being weak or something like that, or seeking attention. But it could just be an Alex thing. Yeah. Yep. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's got to be something. There's got to be some element of that. If you're willing to say, I want to do therapy and put on a podcast and broadcast it to the world, that's not everybody does that. That's an Alex thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some element of it like that. Either I'm comfortable with, I want people looking at me, or I want like there's some element of that.
I hear what you're saying.
That's got to ring true. It rings true for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not everybody is calling me up saying, I want to do a podcast and you be my therapist on that. So that's an Alex thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well,
but I don't know that we need to put that on a continuum of, is that good, bad? Is that pathological? Is it healthy? Is it normal? Is it not abnormal?
Yeah,
like,
I think it is.
Maybe you have a higher tolerance for risk, a greater willingness. Like, maybe your conversion to the mission of what this podcast is about
is more attractive than any risk.
That's right.
Yeah, that's where I stand. Like
I'm willing to do this. Yep, I'm putting myself out there, but you're not. I don't get the impression you're like, look at me, look how dysfunctional I am, look how crazy I am.
So something it might be worth clarifying is like, when I say I'm worried about being judged, like I'm worried about someone being like, oh, your trauma is really not that big of a deal. I'm not saying that in terms of this podcast, oddly enough. I'm talking about it in terms of like internal dialogue of like this unknown person judging me, which this is kind of hard to articulate, but I feel compelled to explain. Like, I'm almost more... what I'm saying is I'm worried about how I judge myself, right? Because I'm not worried about anyone listening right now. But I have this voice inside of me that is very shaming, I guess, about what I've been through and like talking about it. Yeah. So maybe that is the Alex thing. But I also have a sense that like that's a shared experience amongst people who go to therapy or sometimes.
Yeah. You're not worried about what my daughter thinks about the podcast?
The only thing that bothers me is when she says stuff like, "There's awkward silence." Like, if she said like, "Oh, Alex's trauma is stupid," I'd be like, "That's okay." But if she were to critique the awkward silence, I would be like, "Oh, damn it." Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the journey with dissociation continues, and I hope... if EMDR were to unlock things, it was so funny at the end of it. George was like, yeah, they typically deal with more recent trauma, so it might not be as effective, but for you, it'll unlock 10, 15%. I was like, where did you get that number from?
Yeah, I don't know.
And he was like, oh, I just kind of made it up just to like illustrate my point. I was like, yeah, okay.
That's
the
impressive.
way he delivered it was like,
yeah,
I guaranteed 10 to 15%. It sounded very like salesman-y. It just was so funny. But that's not what he meant. He just meant to explain, because of the length of time, it's possible that it's not like an eye-opening experience, but it helps in some way.
Yeah.
And we'll see if it does. It would be I'm starting to think that it has more to do. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at the number.
I know. It is so arbitrary. It was so great. We're talking, 10 to 15%. Like returns or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a sale.
Yeah.
Like it's our spring clearance sale. 15% off trauma.
Come on down to the EMDR Mart.
Now, the key will be if you never say anything to George about the, like, is he listening? Is he ever going to come back to you and say, you're busting my chops about 15%?
He has. Yeah, that would be funny. If he inserted a callback, that'd be very witty.
Because I don't listen to it.
Good. Well, I mean, that doesn't matter. There's one episode where I talk about you on my own.
Yeah.
That's it. So, yeah.
And now maybe I will.
Yeah, I don't listen. I have to listen to it because I go through to
Edit.
Yeah. But soon enough, those days will be gone. Find some intern from the U of M.
Yeah.
Maybe one of your grad students for extra credit will want to edit the podcast.
I don't know. I doubt that.
That would be great. So that's going on in my life. There's an other thing I wanted to share with you. I wanted to adjust your attention to that trophy. You see that over there?
I did. Is this the fantasy football?
No.
Hands of Time Cup.
So what does that make you think of? If you were to, what is
Well,
it?
I was thinking of an Allstate commercial. Like you're in good hands with Allstate.
Okay.
Which could be a sponsor right now. Hello.
Yeah. What else?
What is that from? Is that from a song, The Hands of Time?
I thought it's just like a general
Well, I mean,
concept.
like a clock has two hands, right?
Yeah. Hands of time. Time
So
passing.
I think of Cogsworth from The Beauty and the Beast.
So I've organized.
I'm not hitting on any of it.
No, completely missed the mark.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I play hockey, as you know.
Yeah.
So I organized. I basically convinced McAllister College to let their hockey team scrimmage against my adult rec league team.
Oh.
For charity, as a charity fundraiser.
Oh. Is that a recent thing?
Yeah, it's been in the works for a while.
Did it happen already?
No. So we're in a weird time vacuum where I'm going to announce it. I've been teasing it out, but I'm going to officially announce it next week.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to launch. I have a teaser video and then a GoFundMe link. And we're going to try to raise money for the Hendrickson Foundation, which is a really awesome hockey charity that provides financial assistance to kids who want to play hockey, kids with disabilities who want to play hockey. So they do sled hockey, special hockey, hockey for the blind. Really awesome charity. And the McAllister team, they're bringing out all their fans. They're going to have like 200-300 kids, students out. So I'm going to get someone to sing the national anthem. I'm going to do starting lineups.
Wow.
We're going to have noisemakers. I'm going to get beach balls.
So is it going to be full pads?
Yeah, yes.
And
not full check.
Full. Okay.
But it's we played a warm-up game.
You're discriminating against people from Czechoslovakia.
You've made this joke before. It didn't land that time, and it didn't land now.
I beg to differ.
But it'll be a full game. We'll have refs. Friday night lights, and the winner takes home that cup. But that's been something I've been working on for a while, and I'm really excited about it, but also it's a little stressful. I'm trying to get a celebrity for the celebrity puck drop. I had one lined up.
Dr. Steve.
Dr. Steve. And now, not center quite. Ice, please join us with Dr. Steve. And everyone was like, oh, okay.
Crickets.
Yeah, right. The cricket. This is applicable. That's not the crickets, though. So I'm really excited about that, and it should be a lot of fun. But the whole thing of the Hands of Time, we're turning back the Hands of Time because my older team, these older guys playing these young kids, trying to be relevant again, and it should be a lot of fun. But it's a little stressful, but in a good way.
And you're wanting it. I mean, I'm looking on this trophy. There's multiple places.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
so multiple years.
It would be. My goal is for this to be like an annual tradition, where the McAllister kids get really excited because they play this group of old guys,
right?
And it's for charity. And I want, my vision is like maybe McAllister College gets involved, and they start like matching donations,
helping these kids.
Yeah. And
nice. Maybe
too, it helps promote the McAllister College hockey program, which gets like no funding. Sure. Like I have to pay to extend the ice time because McAllister, the kids can't afford it, and I have to pay for the extra refs because their budget is so strapped. So I'm hoping this like develops hockey there, which is a win, but also the Hendrickson Foundation I'm like super about.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
Cool.
Friday, February 10th, 9 p.m., the Drake Arena in St. Paul. Or sorry, not the Drake Arena, the Highland Schultz Arena. Cool. You should come.
Yeah, I'll consider it. What? Hang on, the 10th?
Friday, the 10th of February. Yep.
Yeah, I might be in town for that.
Yep. It's the rink. It's right off of Snelling, 94 in Snelling.
Yep.
Not too far from the Allianz Field where the
Yeah.
Minnesota United play. But yeah, they're good kids. They're gonna smoke us. I mean, they're college kids. So I've been working on that, and juggling that with also been working on a short film, which I filmed it in August. Believe it or not, and we spent so much time editing it, but I'm finally at a point where we're getting it finished, and I'm gonna hopefully submit it to some festivals. But that has been like it's stuff like this. It's fulfilling for me personally.
Yeah.
I don't make money doing it, obviously. Like I lose money doing it, but I just love doing it. So it's like a constant battle of like me loving it, but also this voice being like, "You're so dumb. You're just, you're not making money. Like, what are you doing?"
But these are checking, and we talked about New Year's resolutions, right? These are checking boxes for what you want to do and how you want your year to look.
Correct.
Is that right?
That is right.
Yeah.
And I believe that they contribute to the broader goal, right?
Yeah.
Like for this short film, I'm doing this because I want to further establish myself as a writer and a director. And maybe if we submit it to some festivals, someone sees it and they like it, and that leads to a conversation.
Yeah. You go to Sundance?
Yeah, we will not get into Sundance.
My son works there.
Does he?
Yeah.
At
the resort.
There was just a resort called Sundance?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
A ski resort, yeah.
I didn't know that.
In Provo Canyon in Utah. So.
Okay. Yeah, so he can just put in a good word.
Yeah, well, actually, Quentin Tarantino started out there. Started working at Sundance. And
no way.
Got a break in filmmaking from some of the stuff they do there. So
that's crazy.
You never know.
You never know. Well, to that end, I had some similar success. I'll tell you, share a story. When I left my job at an ad agency, I started like working on my own. I wrote and directed a commercial, my first one. And there's a big award show here in town called The Show. It's basically all the big ad agencies submit all their work and they give out awards. And I was like, it'd be so funny if I submitted mine just because, it's just Alex. It's like big agency with, $50 million in revenue, and this agency with $20 million in revenue. And then there's Alex. So a lot of people are like, that's really dumb. Don't submit it. But I submitted it anyway. And it ended up winning the whole competition.
Nice.
Which like, basically. So it solidified this idea. I always think back to like my decision to submit. I was in my apartment. It was a Sunday, and I was just like, I might as well. It was like a fraction of a second. And that fraction of a second like drastically shifted
changes your trajectory of your life. Yeah.
So I think about that, and that's why I'm always down to at least try, because you never know. And that phrase, I made a YouTube video called "You Never Know," and I tell that story. I'll send it to you. It was a fun time, and it was also a not so fun time because a lot of people were not so nice afterwards. And there was
because you now represented competition.
Correct.
Or
a lot of people
like
who like
snot-nosed
were
kid who
close to me and my quote unquote mentors. Like, didn't really hear from them after that.
Did you talk to them about it?
No.
Why?
Just radio silence. I think what was really frustrating for me was like, I made an effort to like thank people.
In your acceptance speech, or
yeah, I just posted something and I was like, hey, this is crazy, this is weird. It's just Minnesota, so it's not like I want an Oscar or anything, but it feels great, and thanks to these people who helped me get there. Just nothing.
Ghosted.
Yeah. Which was, I still am, as you can tell, like I'm still a little, I carry some bitterness, but it's just tough to be like.
But you know what it's about? I guess
No.
you don't know what it's about if you haven't followed up with them, right?
Correct. I could ask, but I think what would, the lawyer in me is afraid that it'd be like, well, what are you talking about? Oh, I had no idea. Right. And then I'd be like, okay, so this is my fault. This was.
So you might not get a real response from them.
Yeah. I don't think I would. But
that's got to be painful because they're mentors and people who
totally. Yeah, it was
help
jarring.
contribute to you doing so well.
Correct. It was definitely like a weird moment for me where I realized that like there's such a thing as friends who can only be your friend as long as you're not competing with them or you're perceived to be competing with them.
As long as it's benefiting them.
Correct. And this idea of like George helped me understand. Well, he talks a lot about this idea of like social capital.
Yeah.
Which I think is a real thing. And it definitely complicates relationships, especially if like people that are very sensitive to their standing. Like I feel like I have a lot of friends who are like always sizing me up, and we're sizing each other up. Maybe that's a thing that men do, or I don't even know if that's the case. But anyway, all things aside, it was a part of I think it helped me grow as a professional and as a person, and just realize that like, hey, keep the ones who stuck. I do remember the ones who did reach out. There are people who I never thought would have reached out and totally out of the blue sent me a note. And I was like, I would have never guessed. Those are the quote unquote real ones. Now I'm doing it.
So are they the real ones, or are they like, oh, Alex is on the rise and I better keep him in mind?
Yeah, there were a couple like that. There were definitely a couple like that. But
like you never know when I need to cash in a favor or when I need to be like that's the whole political thing about saying things that you may not mean, but in order to get someone to think a certain way about you or about an issue. That's politics, right?
Yeah. Which I worked at a agency that at one time was very well known and was very prominent, and they had that culture like embedded. It's just I've mentioned this before, but like what I find so just like makes me roll my eyes about like corporate culture is just this they're so unwilling to call a spade a spade. They're so like non-self-aware. It's like, oh no, we're more than a company. We take care of each other. It's like, no, you're just as cutthroat as everywhere else, and like you're just as driven by bottom line as everywhere else. And everywhere is just everywhere is just kind of like high school, just like everywhere else. It's all about who you know and who thinks you're cool and who thinks blah 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 blah. As you can tell,
you're a little jaded.
Yeah, which I don't like. It's so funny because my brother picks up on that.
You don't like being jaded, or you don't like that part about yourself?
I don't like being jaded. No. No. I don't like negative. I don't like emotions that make me feel angry towards people. Like I wouldn't want. I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to be angry at these people. But I think for me, it just comes back to just having some feelings hurt. My feelings hurt. Sucks to have your feelings hurt. But my brother's like, you're still talking about that? That was like 2-3 years ago. And I remember when he said that, I got so mad because I was like, he's right. But also, buzz off. Yeah. Hopefully, yes, the trophy that I won was like 3 times the size of that.
Oh.
So yeah, pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. Well, yeah, I'll send you a copy of the short film. You can send it to your son, and you can tell me what my chances are for Sundance.
I'll have him send it to Quentin Tarantino. There's got to be a lot of blood in it, though.
Yeah, no, there's 0 blood in it, unfortunately. But it's good. I'm happy with it. I'm proud of it. I like the work that I do. It's just you don't always make money doing it, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean, you're teach.
But I'm a teacher and I'm a free therapist.
Yeah,
free podcast therapist.
Free podcast therapy.
There's no money in podcast
therapy.
Absolutely none.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Unless you get your sponsors, which
it's not looking good.
Well, we had Dave one week, and that was the high. We plateaued.
And we lost Honda from your introversion comments last week about you threw the entire company or the entire country of Japan under the bus.
Yeah, Honda. Okay, I was waiting for that through line there. I had written this down. I was like, okay, what are some things I can talk about with Dr. Steve? My iPhone, I didn't realize this, tells me how often I use it a week.
Oh, it gives you a weekly screen, like what apps you're using and how much time you're spending on your phone.
I was pretty embarrassed by the number. It said I was looking at my phone around 7 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to cut back on this. It's really hard for me to cut back on this.
Yeah.
And, the scale of things, it's not a huge deal, but it's like 7 hours. That's like a full day. At first I thought it was wrong. I was like, I'm awake for what, 12 hours?
It's like a long European workday.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're not. That's overtime in Europe. 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I do think smartphones are like they're like cigarettes. A weird way. Like I'm waiting for 20 years from now, everyone to be like, you carried a cell phone with you all day? And I would be like, well, yeah, the doctor said it was fine. Like back in the 40s where it was like, smoke a cigarette and it's good for your lungs. And
refresh you.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for that societal shift because it's like I enjoy it in the moment, but even sometimes I catch myself being like, why am I here? It's like my brain's looking for some sort of dopamine fix.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to cut back on my phone, but it hasn't been going well.
Yeah, New Year's resolution.
Phone addiction is real. And for me, it's like the reason I use my phone is to stave off boredom, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the more I use my phone, the more bored I feel. It's this weird loop.
Mm.
And then Haley would be like, well, hey, why don't we go for a walk? I'm like, no. She's like, well, do you want to play a board game? I'm like, no. She's like, what's wrong? Like, I'm bored. She's like, well, I just listed all these things.
Mm-hmm.
It just like creates this mood of like, I don't want to do anything, yet I'm sick of not doing anything. I'm sure a lot of young people would deal with that, me being the young person that I am. So I'm hoping to get down to like 2 or 3 hours a day. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it goes. Give you an update.
So go from 2 packs to 1 pack.
It's how it feels, honestly. I feel like I'm pretty good at being able to control my habits.
Uh-huh.
But this and the computer are ones where it's just like media consumption has always been a tough one for me.
Yeah, and I think I imagine you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And we're coming out of COVID, which boosted everyone's media consumption.
I feel like I used COVID as an excuse, as like a cover. Like I was already consuming pre-COVID, and then it's like, oh yeah, COVID definitely bumped my numbers up. It's like, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
I was doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But I have read about this, like the dopamine loop, and how a lot of these social media platforms, like they're coded to keep your brain like giving you those hits.
Yeah. The algorithm.
Yeah. So I don't know, how scientific obviously that stuff is, but it makes sense to me because it's like, it really is just like a loop. It's like an hour later, it's like, why was I here? I gained nothing from this.
Do you feel like you are losing out? Like when you look at when you get the report, 7+ hours, do you feel like I've, squandered this part of my life or this part of my day or?
Well, also it feels like there's something, to me that number, anytime I'm on my phone, it's not fulfilling, rewarding stuff. It just feels like an escapism, right?
Yeah.
Or like going out for a smoke or having a drink. It's like, So I look at it as like, whoa, you had 10 drinks today? Jeez.
7 hours of escape.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. It's like, ooh.
Well, it's not 7 hours because you're saying I'd like to get it to 2 or 3 hours. So there's probably 2 or 3 hours that is of that time, or some portion of that time. That is
reading emails and reading articles.
Right. So some efficiencies that are represented in it, but there's an overage that you don't like.
It's social media, honestly.
Yeah, but
it's TikTok
but that's also your business.
I know.
So where do you draw the line?
And a part of me is like super freaked out by the idea. Did I get into this business because I grew up on these platforms and,
Maybe, yeah.
I hope not, because that would be, it's like, what if I was supposed to be a scientist, but I stumbled upon the internet? What if I was supposed to be an astronaut? I could have been a Formula One race car driver, but instead the internet got me. Yeah, I can hear your daughter being like, okay, let's wrap this one up.
I'm just so happy that she's so in your head, as she will be as well.
Yeah. But I'm curious to see how the EMDR thing unfolds. Because as I told George the more that I've talked about dissociation, talk about it in this podcast, I think about it more, obviously. And I mean, even right now, like I have to remind myself that I'm where I am and like that there's a person sitting across next from me. Like I don't even acknowledge that you're here in a weird way. Like I'm looking at you right now and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess there's a person here, but then it's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's like I'm not fully registering anything. But anyway, so.
Yeah, but even in that, you have regard for me as a person that's sitting here. It's not like you're dismissing me.
Correct. Yeah.
So for whatever this dissociation stuff is, you're able to at least be present with me.
Yeah.
My experiences of you being present here,
that's what's so crazy.
Which doesn't seem to fit with what I think about dissociation.
So I know it seems like I am present, and I don't know if that's just because I've become very good, but like I'm not here. Like I'm somewhere else. Like I'm talking to you right now, and it seems like I am present, but my mind, like half of my mind is somewhere else.
Meaning you're thinking about something else?
Yeah.
Box scores?
Yep. I don't even know.
Phone usage?
Yeah. It's like it changes every 10th of a second.
So one of the questions I have about dissociation as you're talking about it is, what if Alex is just more in tune
and you had said this.
With the I said this before?
Well, you'd said something.
Brilliant.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, no, I'm just saying, what if you're more in tune with the tasking that is our human mind?
Yeah. I had never considered the idea that I am more aware. And I brought that up to George when I saw him this week. And he was like, well, that makes sense. And I was like, why? I don't understand. He's like, well, if you hurt your ankle and you were just like, okay, my ankle's hurt, but so what? Moving on, focusing on this, TV, job, blah, blah, blah. That experience would be different from, oh, I hurt my ankle. How does it feel today? How does it feel this second? How does it feel next second? Mm-hmm. And if you were to do that every day, oh, my weight's shifting over here. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling this part of my ankle now. Like your experience is going to be vastly different from that other person's. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, that tracks. So maybe it's just a sort of like, and I should level set. No doctor's ever been like, you are a clear-cut case of dissociation.
Right.
I just have done, this is the closest I could find.
Onto.
Yeah.
Because I don't know in George's notes, does he write dissociation? Like, does he?
That's why I first reached out to him.
Does he diagnose you with a case of dissociation? Because that's not even a diagnosis.
Yeah.
I don't believe.
Dissociative disorder, identity disorder, so
on.
Listen, all I can tell you is
that's different.
Dissociation was the only thing I read that had any kind of symptoms similar to it was like
resonated with.
Yeah,
you.
It was like feeling you're not present,
I don't have my phone. Or I'd be
You
playing
don't
a
have your-
game. I'd be playing a game on it right now. No.
Notepad.
I'd be looking. I'd look up dissociative identity disorder, which is I don't feel like I'm me.
Which is not what I have.
Right. That's not.
I don't
that's not what you
experience that.
describe.
No.
I don't feel like I'm here.
I feel like there's a foggy haziness in my brain all of the time.
Sounds like a country song.
There is a fogginess in my brain all the time. So yeah, a part of me is like, how ironic would it be is if the second I stop thinking about it, it goes like, it's just one of those things that it's all in your head, which it is all in my head.
This one sounds like it is.
It is all in my head, literally. And figuratively, maybe. Yeah. It just was so strange because I remember not having it. I went to sleep. I woke up. I felt different.
Yeah.
I could not figure that out. And I don't know what to tell you.
The interesting thing to me is that you say, right here, I'm not really present with you, Steve, because my experience is that you are present.
That is interesting to hear.
So I'm coming at this like a scientist, right? Not a lawyer. I don't need to prove anything to you, but I'm just throwing my own evidence, my own experience out there into the mix.
Yeah, versus you might see someone who's like, okay, you seem somewhere else.
Somewhere else. And we say that. We even use that in language. Like, you don't seem to be here right now. You're not present.
What if I just got really good at multitasking?
Yeah. Maybe.
But that is something for me to think about. I had not thought about that. Right? Because like no one else notices this. No one else has ever said anything.
Right.
So why would I've... Yeah. Maybe this is...
Finish that.
Why would I have made... Why would my brain have made it up? Why would I have gone to sleep and woke up and thought I felt different? Like, what would have caused that? Is it a reaction to that panic? Like, was it I got so worried that I was like, okay, from now on, we're just got to be worried all the time?
So, like, I think the panic, like, when people talk to me about panic attacks, they talk about feeling like they're about to die.
Yeah.
And so much so that they start to limit, like, I'm not going to ever do that when I'm driving. I'm never going to drive again because I don't want to have a panic attack and feel like I'm going to die and cause an accident or die in a car, So they start, these panic symptoms start to limit their world. I'm not going to go outside. Or I was at the freezer section of the grocery store when this happened, so I'm never going back there.
Yeah.
So now I'm not going back to this grocery store anymore.
So it's like I'm never going back to that part of my mind?
Well, no, it's like if you had a panic attack, it was associated with feeling like, oh my gosh, the world is closing in. I'm going to die. I'm not going to, I don't like this feeling. Then I can see that as a definite marker in somebody's life, in your life, of things are different today. That was a game changer. What happened last night is a game changer, and how you're making sense of it might just be this thing you're choosing to call dissociation. I don't know.
Well, at the time, it wasn't dissociation. At the time, it was, I must be in a coma. This is all. That's what I ran with for like 5-6 years.
Yeah. 12 years old?
Yeah.
That you said? Yeah.
Yep. I was like 10 or 12. Yeah, I think I was 12 because I'd just gotten back from tennis camp, tennis and life camp at Gustavus Adolphus. I don't know if you knew that they have this
Tennis and life? No, I didn't know
famous
that.
tennis program, summer camp. I'd just gotten back with my cousin, and he was spending the night with his, I had to have been like 12. Yep. Well,
it'll be interesting to see what you get out of EMDR if there is a 15% reduction.
Honestly, this is why I kind of want to like just trip balls.
What does that mean?
Sorry, I want to take the magic mushrooms because it's like I'm open.
Did I just miss a drug reference? Is tripping balls something?
Correct.
Never heard that in my life.
Yeah, and that's old. That's my generation. I don't know what the kids are saying. But like a part of me is so open to any explanation, right? I don't want to be pigeonholed. Like I want to give my brain and my mind space to.
Sounds like you're tripping balls right there.
To figure itself out. Like if there's a knot, if I just need to come to Jesus moment with myself where it's like, okay, finito, we're good. I'm just, yeah.
Do you think you can be good if you have it? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe,
Because part of my experience of you is that you're going to keep searching. Or even if you do get an answer, that it won't be definitive enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's your naturally inquisitive nature or is it something else.
My gut tells me there's probably something a little compulsive in there or obsessive in there. And I wasn't always like this. There was a time where I wasn't like this. I used to not worry all the time and think all the time and obsess about stuff all the time. Granted, I was 10 years old, so a long time ago.
Yeah, and so that may be a little unfair to you to be holding yourself to a 10-year-old standard.
Yeah.
when 10-year-olds really don't
do much,
give a crap about much, except what are we having for lunch?
Yeah.
The stakes are different now than when you were 10. You're not 10 anymore.
My fiance would disagree sometimes. She'd be like, sometimes
you still act like a 10-year-old.
This little shit is a 10-year-old.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, we're way past time. I got someone waiting for me.
Okay. All right.
So thanks. I appreciate you just sort of pulling the rug from under me and now I have to start all over and figure out a new disorder to attach.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can help you find one. I know all kinds.
Yeah, thank you for your time, as always.
All right.
And to everyone else out there, stay happy.